What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Well, it's a big time in the history of Arkansas football with this coaching search. We're almost a week into things. We're going to talk about some of these candidates. Keith Grayson, Pete Roulier is going to join us also. All that and more on Hog Sports Live. Okay, of course, there's plenty of ways to watch and listen, as you all know. Facebook Live, YouTube, always streaming on Facebook Live, hence the name Hog Sports Live. If you haven't thrown us a follow, then do so now. Throw us a thumbs up if you like the content that we deliver. Also on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell so you know anytime we upload a new video, and throw us a thumbs up there as well. Also available to listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, just about anywhere you can think to find podcasts. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, throw us a 5-star review. Say something nice about us if you like the content that we deliver. We want it to show up anytime somebody searches for Arkansas Razorbacks. We want them to see Hog Sports Live on Apple Podcast. Also, we got a special 60% off, as you can see right here. There it is, 60% off of an annual VIP membership at HawgSports.com. So that's a heck of a deal. Today's the last day that we're offering that. It's 11/14/19 for those listening. Today's the last day at 11:59 tonight, Central Time. Then we will pull this promo. So I want to show a quick video real quick just to kind of show you guys what we deliver at Hog Sports, because I think a lot of people kind of have, they almost jump in, and I tell people, hey, we got a lot of really good inside information here. As I mentioned last time, we were able to guide people the whole step of the way, all the way down to Chad Morris being hired. Same deal with Eric Musselman. And I'm not saying we're doing that this time, but we got a lot of great inside sources that you can only find at HawgSports.com.
Jason, got a question or comment for Trey?
I will say, guys, if you subscribe at Hog Sports, you won't have to go without information. I have since learned that for 2 days now. I went ahead and took advantage of Trey's deal, and I have been saturated with information and content, as well as an additional walk and talk after the conference today. So, man, I'm telling you, I've listened to Trey say it over and over again, and I'm like, man, I don't really have time to follow another website. I have found time to follow another website, and it has been it has quenched my Razorback thirst the last couple of days. But so Trey, I actually wanted to talk about your 2.0 board here.
All right, that's an unsolicited caller. And we get a lot of comments like that. People don't realize what all we offer until they actually get inside. So if you like the podcast, you like the walk and talk, you like all the other stuff we do on Drive Time, Danny on Out of Bounds, all that stuff, then sign up at Hog Sports. It's actually where we make our money. I mean, this is the reason we do this show right here, and the walk and talk and stuff is to help promote the website. If you notice, I've got no pictures over here now. I took the pictures off just because, it's Chad Morris. It's it's obsolete. It's all the Arkansas quarterbacks and stuff. So I've got to rework that. Also, don't pay attention to the ticker down here that has the special there. So I could either go in and redo a bunch of stuff like this, or I can follow this coaching search. So I want to talk about some candidates and stuff. The first thing that we had out this morning, this is really interesting. This is about Lane Kiffin, who really for a lot of people has been, we had kind of an informal poll, name your top 3 candidates. And for Razorback fans, pretty much, not everybody, but pretty much everybody had Lane Kiffin somewhere in their top 3. Florida Atlantic coach, obviously, to hear the story on Kiffin. In 2007, he was the head coach at 31 years old at the Oakland Raiders, then left that job and took the Tennessee job, and that's where things are going to get interesting. We'll get back to this in a minute. And then left Tennessee, took the USC job. Obviously, they were hit with sanctions while he was there, a lot more than he was anticipating. Things went downhill. Took the OC job at Alabama for 3 years, and then has had some success at FAU, winning 11 games his first season, dipped down last year, and is back to 7-3 this season, and that includes a 45-21 loss at Ohio State. So he's got them rolling pretty good right now. And the interesting part of this is from Michael Lombardi, who's a former NFL GM, also worked with NFL Network. Lombardi reports that Kiffin was obviously we know he was disgruntled when he was under Al Davis at Oakland, but he was upset with the situation, and he was in the mix for the Arkansas job. Not just in the mix for the Arkansas job, but thought he had the Arkansas job. And it came down to Bobby Petrino and Lane Kiffin. And they basically told Bobby Petrino, if you want the job, you've got to leave Atlanta right now. And Petrino was like, okay. but Kiffin thought he had the job. It's a really interesting interview. It's on the Rich Eisen show from 2017 with Michael Lombardi. But Kiffin thought that he had the job, and apparently, according to Lombardi, he was slamming doors around the facility because he thought he had it. He ended up taking the Tennessee job that year. Now, people can say what might have been if Lane Kiffin had taken the Arkansas job. What might have been was he probably ended up at USC the next year. I don't know. Maybe he didn't. He won 7 games at Tennessee, and Petrino was only able to win 5 that year at Arkansas. So maybe he wouldn't have been a hot enough name to return to USC at the time. So who knows how things would have worked out. But Kiffin was absolutely a candidate there. We've been talking about some things on the Razor's Edge, and I'm not going to go into too much of our detail on our insider stuff, but we're going to have some fun with the coaching search discussion today. But we've got a lot of stuff ranging from what we're hearing behind the scenes from people who are influencers at the University of Arkansas, who might be a candidate, a lot of projection stuff. We're still very early in this process right now, but also some of the coaches that Hunter Yurachek considered when he was at Houston. And some of those guys have, changed, moved up through the ladder and stuff. But when he was at Houston and hired Major Applewhite for that job, there are some candidates to look at also there. So we've got some of that discussion as well. Just some talk about what we're hearing. A lot of the best information, one of the reasons I like being with the 24/7 Sports Network is we're all very tightly knit, and it's so easy to communicate with each other. So when somebody hears some rumblings going on from somewhere, that helps. Plus, we've got other sources outside the network, obviously from other places that we've developed over the last 17 years. But a lot of times, this coaching search stuff, the best information to get is from outside sources. Like, for example, with the basketball source, was that even a year ago? With recent basketball search, there was so much stuff about Kevin Sumlin. And yes, Kevin Sumlin was in the mix, but there was stuff that was just way out in front of what it should have been. And we were able to shoot all that stuff down because we had a connection, very, very close to Kevin Sumlin. So we were able to shoot down so much of that information when everybody else was just basically saying, this is the guy. So a lot of times stuff kind of leaks out from other places, so you got to keep that in mind. We're going to be joined by Keith Grayson and then Pete Roulier. We had a lot of fun with that last time. It was funny. One of our most downvoted videos that we've had, but also a lot of upvotes too, and I think people enjoy hearing their take on things. But we've got the Coaching Search Hot Board 4.0 up today. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Gus Malzahn lately, and I'm not going to go into too much detail why, but we will say that Auburn almost feels like they're almost chalking these up to losses, these next 2 SEC games for Auburn in Alabama and Georgia. And if you look back at what Gus has done this year with a true freshman at quarterback, they lost on the road to Florida, who's number 11. They lost on the road to LSU, who's number 1. So they've lost 2 games, and then they have number 4 Georgia and number 5 Alabama left at home. And people are chalking it up like it's losses stuff. I always think that Gus does just enough to keep his job. But here's the interesting thing with that is that if he left Auburn on his own, he would owe them $7 million. And we even heard that Auburn would be willing to be like, hey, you don't owe us anything. But at the same time, if Auburn fires him, they owe him $27 million. Who's going to walk away from $27 million? It almost feels like Arkansas will be doing him a favor in that regard. So anyway, check out our Coaching Search Hot Board. We've got some free information up there. There's also, just some stuff from Houston Nutt. And I know Houston's not a candidate, guys. I know that it's fun to talk about stuff like that. And, it's fun to talk about Sam Pittman also, Barry Lundy Jr., who I love, who's on the staff now as interim role. But Arkansas is going to go after somebody, I believe, who's established as a head coach, okay? And probably, Gus Malzahn, Houston Nutt, those are people that kind of divide the state just based on how things left. And it's fun to remember some of the good things, but, you kind of forget about some of the old things that didn't go so well. But Houston does – I thought it was interesting. He did say he would absolutely basically take the job if Arkansas wanted him. That's the key phrase, and he understands that. I think he probably also would have been interested in the AD job also. But what I've seen from Yurachek so far, I feel like the guy gets it. What it's supposed to, what Arkansas is about. I feel like the Musselman hire is playing out to have been a really good hire so far. We'll see how things go, but I don't know. I think everybody's on board with what they've seen out of Musselman, not only off court but also early on court in these last 2 games. So plenty of stuff on HawgSports. Still football team still playing. Barry Lundy Jr. spoke to the media for the second time as the interim head coach and just kind of outlined some things. I think one of the notable things is, not saying who the quarterback is, but Jalen Catalon is out for the season. Now, from what our sources say, it's a shoulder injury, that it was something that, had he been able to continue playing, he could have played. He played in the last game with it going in. So it's not like something that happened in the last game. It's like, well, if you play any more games, you're going to burn your red shirt. Might as well have the shoulder surgery now. So that's kind of what that situation is right now with Jalen Catalon, according to sources. All right. Everybody having a good time? Take advantage of this 60% off. I keep pointing the wrong way. Everything's backwards on my screen. But take advantage of this 60% off offer. I mean, it's a heck of a deal. Have some fun with this coaching search. I'm going to go ahead and reach out now to Keith, and I love this picture of Keith, to Keith and Pete Roulier. See what they have to say on this coaching search. Basketball also, we'll get into a little bit of that as well, if they ever come up. All right, here we go. Come on down, fellas. All right. Pete, you won. You're first up. There's Keith.
Hey, how about that?
How you guys doing?
Doing all right. It's the little things that count. Small victories.
The small victories, yeah. So for those who don't know, Pete Roulier has been on our beat for a long time at HawgSports.com, covering football, basketball, baseball, does a great job. The better part of a year he's been with us. And Keith Grayson is former Disgraced president and founder of the Arizona Razorback Club. He also coaches high school football on the side and owns Keith Grayson Real Estate. That pretty much covers.
I'm also a pretty good friend of Sam Pittman.
Yeah, also a good friend of Sam. What do you think about Sam Pittman, Keith? Let's just jump into that.
Texted him the other day, and what I took away from the conversation is they got Auburn this week, and he's chatting with Hog fans. So don't know what that means. But I was like, shouldn't you be getting ready for a game? I mean, I think that the Hayes and the Bard, recruiting-wise, they already have all their commitments lined up. So
well, let's have fun talking about Pittman for a minute, because let's be honest. In a little while, we're not going to be talking about Pittman anymore. I mean, I love Sam Pittman. I love what he did, his recruiting philosophy, and it wasn't just because Sam Pittman outworks people. He just has that charisma. It's just like, this is the guy that I want to be my dad, kind of thing. I think a lot of people see that in him. And yeah, I mean, Sam Pittman. There's not a lot of guys like them out there. So he would do a great job recruiting. He'd had everybody in that. One of the big things, the discussion has been the locker room, the issues within the locker room. He'd had everybody loved up in that locker room, feeling good about him. And that's what you need in a coach. You need somebody that you fear, you love, you respect, and believe in. And Pittman, I think, could bring all that.
I asked him straight up the first time that I met him. I'm in a bar with him, and I'm at the Marriott here in Phoenix, and him and Bielema were on a recruiting visit out here in February, right after they got hired, and sitting down. For the record, Pittman had won Sam Adams Oktoberfest and went to bed, and Bielema and I had about 10 each. I think he was drinking vodka, and I
love how you just nosed your way into that. They're having to be in Phoenix. Hey guys, come meet me.
Bielema called me. I'm not trying to big time anybody, but it's just so happened that my ex-wife and his personal assistant went to the same high school
in
Utica, New York, or something.
Don't worry about that.
That's
your rabid dog.
Got distracted confused on which podcast we're on, because there's always barking dogs on another HawgSports or another.
Sam Pittman, dogs, man, it all goes together.
Yeah, he's a huge bulldog fan, English bulldog breeder, I think, or something like that. Right? Anyway, so I asked him point blank. I said, "Hey, do you have what makes you like a good recruiter? Like, that differentiates you from everybody else, to separate you from the herd?" And he said, "Well, you're in sales. You probably get it. I'm selling the university the same way you're selling houses." And he in the conversation almost changed my business, because he said, "You have to become such good friends with the person that you're trying to sell something that they can't tell you no in the end." Mm-hmm. And straight up, it's not about football, and everybody talks about it feels like family when they're going on our recruiting visits and all that stuff. Well, and I think some of the stuff that he does now to celebrate recruiting commitments is kind of cheesy, but people eat that up. The kids love that stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's not as cheesy as Kurt Anderson's mic drop over Landon junior college players that nobody else was recruiting.
Right. But so here's my stance on this, and I think this is not coming from Pittman. Let me just say that this is not. We did kind of exchange some text the other day, but this is my own interpretation on the situation. Mm-hmm. So he is best friends with Lance Thompson, who is currently on Kiffin's staff, and those two together, I think they coached at Tennessee together, but they have, they're mutual friends with Jim Chaney and all these people. I don't think Chaney would be the OC if Kiffin came over, but I think all the chatter about Pittman leaving Georgia is relevant. I think that it comes back to some sort of back channel that he would be agreeable to come on staff if Kiffin. I think this is kind of getting some sort of underswell to promote Kiffin as the head coach and get the band back together. He has not coached with Lane Kiffin, so let's just get that out of the way. But he has coached with people on that staff, more so to the point of Lance Thompson, and they are extremely close friends. And and if you remember back to the whole thing with Chaney leaving Arkansas, relationships matter to Pittman, and I don't think he's jiving with the OC. And that's no news out at Georgia. So I think that it's, if I'm it, and I'm sorry to be long-winded on this whole thing, but I've been thinking about the coaching situation nonstop, like most Razorback fans are. And if I'm Hunter Yurachek, I got two options. I go after LSU's staff and break them up before they become the next Alabama and Clemson, or I go in and I break up Alabama's staff a little bit with hiring Lane Kiffin and try to get some guys off their staff. And that's how you attack it.
Kiffin's been a very popular candidate and kind of the guy that everybody's talking about today. So, I mean, I guess they've been talking about him a little bit, but there's other connections, mutual connections with Sam Pittman too, with guys that are potential candidates. Again, you can read all this stuff and more on our Coaching Search Hot Board 4.0. Take the 60% off offer. Pete, I want to let you chime in a little bit. What do you think? Yeah. What are your hopes and dreams for this coaching search?
Well, let me just start by saying I like how you introduced Keith, and then he went on this whole entire spiel.
It's good information. That's good information.
It is good information. I'm not discrediting it. It's just what all Razorback fans are pretty much doing right now, right? Mm-hmm. That's the fun of the coaching search. I mean, I think what you need to do is, I'm not going to say any names right now, but I think you got to go out and find an established head coach that's just going to get you back to relevancy. Somebody that can actually win some football games, has proven that they can win some football games at a high level as a head coach and just a leader of men. So whoever that guy is, I think that you got to go out and target him. And and I don't think a lot of Arkansas fans would be very excited about an up-and-comer at this point.
A leader of men, Pete Roulier says. It's like Lord of the Rings looking for the
Sam Pittman to Keith Grayson.
Pete, let me ask you this. So you worked on the Bo Mattingly show for a couple of years. Why the hell did Lane Kiffin call in all the time?
Bo and Lane had quite a bit of connection, and I think Trey actually did an article about it this morning. He does have some connections to Arkansas. You know, his dad was the defensive coordinator here.
He was a toddler in Fayetteville once.
He was a toddler. We had a lot of fun with Lane. He actually got the keys to the city in Boca Raton. So I called Boca Raton Chamber of Commerce to talk about what the keys to the city were. They couldn't exactly give me an answer to what a key to the city is, but they just had a lot of fun with Bo, and I mean, he's interested in Arkansas. I mean, believe it or not, a lot of people do have connections to Fayetteville. There's been a lot of big-time coaches come through here, and I mean, it's kind of a hub.
Somebody's going to scoop him up, right? Somebody's scooping Lane Kiffin up. Lombardi was talking about, this is where the mafia started, with Pete Carroll, Monty Kiffin, back when Lane Kiffin was a toddler. But Arkansas is where the mafia started up.
Go back and watch his Broyles Award speech. I think it was in 2016 or 14. I get my years mixed up because I'm time traveling most of the time. But I was really impressed with that because you can tell that the tradition here, and he kind of romanticized on the whole thing, meeting with Broyles, sitting down eating breakfast with him and hearing how everybody kind of generated from here and all these different the Broyles coaching tree blossomed here. in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
It's really an incredible tree. By the way, I think they just released the finalists for the Broyles Award. I haven't looked at that, but they just released the finalists for that. So
what I was going to say was 2 years ago, it felt like Kiffin was really happy with what he was doing at FAU. I mean, that kind of was probably a little bit of BS. I don't think he was happy being at FAU, but he wasn't ready to move on.
He's ready. He will move. He will take this job. If Arkansas decides that he's the guy, he will take this job. I put up a wanted. Did you guys read my wanted ad for the Arkansas head coach?
That was great. Yeah, good stuff.
Did you read it? You read my stuff, Keith?
It was a little long-winded, kind of like my intro.
No, yours was good. But just breaking down like what Arkansas is looking for in a coach. Obviously winning is 100-1 important, but it would be nice to have somebody that people tune into and that people find entertaining. And I think that plays well with recruiting too. But just kind of break down like all the things. Well, I'll go into this a little bit more after you guys are gone because I want to continue having this conversation with you guys, but.
Well, the thing with Kiffin is he's gained about 30 pounds of bad weight, and how much deep sea fishing and Caribs can you do over a 3-year period? I mean, you can't just sit there and I mean, it's going to get even Paradise gets old a little.
He has always had the philosophy that you have to move around as a coach, and he's been right by that. He's been at Tennessee. He's been, was it North Carolina, Tennessee? Was it North Carolina? Is that right? North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Georgia. I guess that has been his recent coaching path. But his family still lives here, Oakland. Too. Pittman's family still lives around here in Missouri.
Did I say Pittman or Kiffin? I meant Kiffin.
Oh, you were talking about Boca Raton. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, my thing
and
is
deep sea fishing,
and
and 30 pounds.
I'll let you get to the breakdown of your article here in a second. But my whole thing is this is not meant to a slight as Arkansas fans, but it is we have an inferiority complex, or however the hell you say that, to where we're always thinking that there's something out there that. Woe is me. We're never going to be above 8 wins and all this stuff. And I think that Lane Kiffin has his own complexes and his own maturity issues and everything, the way that he's viewed in the public eye in the sports world. And he's got a chip on his shoulder. And the way that he kind of left Bama and has left a couple other jobs, that he's been slighted in that fact. And I think he would come in and go try to punch Saban in the mouth. I mean, that's what you need here. That's what you need at Arkansas. I think he's got that chip on his shoulder that he'd embrace the entire state. I don't know if everybody's going to embrace him. It's kind of
they played Alabama pretty tough his year at Tennessee, if you remember. You remember that? They kind of slowed it down, kept it close.
Yeah, I guess. If you look at what he's done this year, he's he could end up 9-3 this year, but his 2 losses were early in the season. They started out 0-2 because they played Ohio State and UCF.
Didn't play Ohio State that bad. It was 21-45. I mean, I know that sounds like a blowout, but I mean, 2 programs on totally different levels. And UCF is 18th right now, I guess, something like that. Or maybe that was 18th when they played them. I was looking at the schedule. But the other loss was 5 points to Marshall. So not awful losses for him this season. But 7-3, has an 11-win season under his belt his first year there. And they dipped down a little bit last year. But, man, we're talking about Lane Kiffin a lot. Anybody else you guys want to entertain the idea? What about Matt Campbell? Is that
Pete's not going to name a name. Pete's not going to say
I am going to name a name. You want to talk about Matt Campbell? I think Mike Leach would be great at Arkansas. Yeah. And that might be a little bit for selfish reasons.
He would be entertaining.
Because he'd be entertaining for me as a member of the media. But honestly, though, I mean, just here's my thing. Look at Pullman and then look at Lubbock. Those are just 2 kind of weird towns in America. Fayetteville fits right in with those kind of things. And Arkansas is an even bigger college football area, I believe.
Arkansas has way more to offer than Pullman.
Lubbock, Texas might as well be Baghdad, Iraq.
This Leach has overachieved at both places, dramatically overachieved at both places, and he's got a great person. He's attainable. I mean, it's going to cost a little bit more than it would cost for some other people, but he's absolutely attainable. Was interested in the job last time, and hasn't been as vocal, but is also interested this time. That's all.
That goes back to what I'm saying about I don't think that you're looking for the home run hire right now, the up-and-coming guy that's going to take you to the national championship game. I'm thinking maybe bring Leach in for however long it takes just to get this program back to relevancy, because how far they've fallen is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that. And I think a guy like Mike Leach, who's a proven winner, who's done it for so long, has been a head coach for so long, has some Texas ties, some SEC connections. He was a coach at Kentucky for a couple years and even in Oklahoma. I mean, I think he's the perfect kind of candidate to come in and just get you back to some relevancy.
I'm all about breaking up what's already happening in the SEC West. You have to look at it from a standpoint of, could you go in and get Aranda and Brady as a package deal? Is that even feasible? I think you got to look at it because LSU, after that win against Alabama, their recruiting was already elite. Mm-hmm. Now they're getting the number one cornerback in the nation, the number one defensive tackle in the nation. Those commitments happened right after. From a recruiting standpoint, you got to go in and break that up before it becomes this thing that is you just can't. Now you're going to have two monsters.
So what, you hire Aranda as the head coach and Brady's the OC?
Yeah. Straight up, and make him the highest paid coordinator in the country. Well, the thing is, you'd have to give Aranda $4 million or $4.5 just to get him because he's already making 2.5 or 2.7, whatever it is. The other thing is, you can't hire Gus because they're going to go replace him with Bob Stoops, and so that's just going to strengthen the division even more.
Yeah. Plus, you let him cop out on $27 million they owe him.
Yeah, and if you bring in Kiffin, he could probably bring in an SEC staff that's going to compete recruiting-wise against – you're going to get – Lance Thompson was like the linebackers coach at Alabama for like 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. He was the best recruiter on that staff. You get him and Pittman, there are 2 top 10 recruiters on the same staff.
And if you keep Lunny
or whoever.
You know that Kiffin, in addition to them, I mean, can cast about as big a net as possible, as far as like knowing other coaching candidates out there just through his history all the way back to his father. I want to take you guys on one more name here before I let you go. But Mike Norvel is a guy that makes a lot of sense that really hasn't been talked about a whole lot lately. It's just been kind of these other, big personality names, Mike Leach, Lane Kiffin, Gus Malzahn been sprinkled in there, of course, and some other, far-fetched ideas like Houston Nutt. What about Mike Norvel?
Okay, no. You're going to make me – you're trying to – see, we have 2 reporters on the line right now and a fan. So as a fan, I don't think I'm held to the same ethical stuff as y'all, and you want me to be the first person to report what's going on with Mike Norvel?
I don't want you to. I want you to talk about him as a coach. I don't want you to slander. I don't want you to slander the guy on radio.
I'm just saying that there is something out there that's an iceberg that nobody's touching this dude, and there's other people that have touched on it. I'm talking nationally. That's outside of this conversation, outside of the Arkansas job, and there's a reason, man. And he was the offensive coordinator at Arizona State, about 10 minutes from my office. There's a reason why nobody's going after him. And that stuff, that outweighs, because you're just going to turn around and have Bobby Trino 2.0. That's what's going to happen. So that's my stance on it.
All right,
great coach, too much baggage.
Okay, so here's how I feel about it. You get all that stuff, and I agree that there is something probably there. Here's my thing. You just hired Chad Morris from the American Conference, and I think what the problem is there's a little bit of stink to that right now. And that's why the hype train surrounding Mike Norvel isn't as big as it probably should be when you look at his resume.
And he took over a program. He took over a program under Justin Fuente that was already rolling.
Exactly. He's not like a qualified rebuilding. Correct me if I'm wrong, Trey, but these guys are the same exact candidates that we were talking about 2 years ago. But the difference is you feel a lot better about the situation right now if you're Arkansas because you believe in what Yurachek did. He went out and hired Musselman, and you don't have this whole mess with the AD going on. So I feel like the 2 years ago we were talking about the same exact candidates, but they feel surprisingly, amazingly, after two win seasons, more attainable than they did 2 years ago.
Possibly, yeah. All right, guys. I'm ready to drop you two.
All right, man.
Anything else? Anything else on your way out, Keith Grayson?
No, that's it. I had a late night last night. I do all this subsidized housing for the homeless. I rent out renovated properties to homeless people, and one of them was harboring a fugitive that had been robbing banks all across the Phoenix Metroplex area. So met up with a task force last night to give them the keys to the gates to go bust down some doors. So I've been, if I wasn't doing real estate, I'd definitely be like tasing people for a living. I love the police force out here is awesome.
Yeah,
that's been my morning.
Disgruntled past owner of the Arizona Razorback Country Club, SWAT team member, substitute teacher, con man, Uber driver.
That's it.
Add it to the list, baby.
Yeah. All right, fellas.
Sam Pittman's agent.
Sam
Later.
Pittman's agent. All right. See you guys. All right. That's Keith Grayson and Pete Roulier. Always entertaining I like having those guys on together. So, one more time before we jump into the rest of the show, I want to remind everybody, plenty of ways to watch and listen. Facebook Live, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. Take advantage of the 60% off offer as well. I want to get into my wanted story. Wanted, Arkansas coach. All right, and just really, I'm breaking down what Arkansas is looking for, and I mentioned, somebody that's brash, funny, likable, mean, something like that. I mean, you don't want Joffrey Baratheon up there running the show, but, somebody that has a little bit of a personality. And again, 100-1 winning. He can have Eeyore's personality. But that's, I think, what we're looking for. Somebody who appreciates what Chad Morris did in recruiting. Now, not obviously on the field, but what they did in recruiting, because they did have that right. The footprint of Texas, Louisiana, especially East Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Tulsa area, Memphis, Tennessee, Nashville, of course, the state of Arkansas. That's your footprint. And you need to have, if he's not a coach that has direct connections to the state of Texas or Arkansas, he needs to understand what Arkansas football is about, historically, not recently, and that he needs assistant coaches with strong ties to the state of Texas, particularly East Texas. A guy like Jeff Traylor is a great example. I mean, that guy really does a great job in East Texas recruiting. So that would be a big thing. I want to say why candidates shouldn't be worried about their own neck, because, I mean, if you look at it from the outset, well, Chad Morris only got less than 2 years. Chad Morris got less than 2 years. But I want the candidates to understand that also that if you go 4-18 after 22 games, that you will also be fired. Nobody's asking for a whole lot this year. I mean, you look at the way the schedule shaped up with, running into down teams like Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Kentucky and Texas A&M. Missouri has every quality of a team that's about to completely let go of the rope with 3 straight losses, about to have their 4th straight loss against Florida, and nothing screams, I can't get up for this game, than playing what is technically your bowl game, because you're ineligible for bowls, in Little Rock against Arkansas. And if the weather's bad, then it's even going to be more so. And I've said before, Houston Nutt would have eaten this schedule alive with this roster. He would have. He would have eaten this schedule alive. At least he would have won 7 games. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the roster and the talent is this bad and stuff. It's not a greatly talented roster, but this isn't the worst situation that Arkansas has ever been in the 126-year history of the program. And that's what we've just witnessed here. So, expectations, people would be satisfied. I mean, Arkansas fans have been beaten down so much that people would be satisfied with progress, with clear indications that you're taking steps forward, improving the roster, winning more, uniting the team more. People would be satisfied with that, at least for a while. And then eventually they're going to want you to take the next level. But you're going to have time as long as you don't embarrass Arkansas like the last coach did. Embarrassed them several times. Act now, and you get a 76,000-seat stadium in Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium, 21st largest in the country. You might have to scrub some of the stank off her, but she's got a deep and proud history. New North End Zone expansion features new locker rooms that rank among the nicest in the nation. And after a win over a mid-major opponent, you can turn it to some stupid nightclub to celebrate. Don't do that. Don't actually do that. Access to the Fred W. Smith Center, which isn't even 7 years old, one of the nicest in the country. Connected to the weight room, which overlooks the indoor practice facility, the Willard and Pat Walker Pavilion. Very unique practice fields, 2 practice fields that overlook part of Arkansas, part of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Beautiful scene there. Right under it is a parking deck. The recently completed Jerry and Jean Jones Family Student Athlete Success Center for nutrition, academic support, and general enjoyment. Also, I don't know if people know this, but with the deal with Nike, Arkansas is one of the few schools that gets to test out products that Nike releases before they're released and give feedback on them. So that's a nice selling point. So everything from a facility standpoint at Arkansas now is complete. There's nothing that a new guy is going to be wanting. Nothing. You're not going to have to go on television and say, hey, give to the Hog Call, fundraiser or whatever, because we want to build this new operation facility. You're not going to have to bring coaches or players in, recruits, and say, hey, look at this model or look at this computer-generated walkthrough of this facility that's going to be ready by your junior year. It's all ready. It's all here. It's all ready for somebody to come in and take advantage of it. You might look at it on the outset and say, well, recruiting might be a bit of a disadvantage compared to other SEC schools. I look at like a state like Mississippi. Mississippi produces way more talent per capita than Arkansas does for a similarly sized state. But there are two universities in there splitting talent, first of all. And secondly, they're close to so many other SEC schools that, neighbor that state that everybody's diving in there and taking them. Last year, 6 of the top 10 players in the state of Mississippi went elsewhere. So don't tell me that Mississippi has this huge recruiting advantage over Arkansas, because they don't. You look at Missouri. In my time covering Arkansas, Missouri has never gone into Arkansas and just taken a guy that the University of Arkansas has offered. Never. But Arkansas plenty of times has gone into Missouri and taken players that they have offered and brought them to Arkansas, because Arkansas is a better program overall, top to bottom, historically. The money that they'll spend, all of that stuff, than Missouri has been. Now, not right now, obviously, but they have been historically. Yes, they have been. So, you look at that, people get upset, flustered when recruits inside the state of Arkansas choose to go elsewhere. But if you look at it on a national scale, Arkansas is an elite company as far as keeping in-state prospects at home from a percentage standpoint. Elite company. Not other schools don't have the success Arkansas does, even though it feels like the end of the world every time somebody leaves. But percentage-wise, they do a great job. So a lot of reasons to want this Arkansas job. Plus, Northwest Arkansas is annually rated amongst the best places to live in the country by places like Forbes Magazine. UPS did something on it also. U.S. News and World Report currently has Arkansas as the Fayetteville as the 4th best place to live in the entire country and the number 1 place to live in the SEC footprint. I mean, that's not something to just turn your nose up at. It's a hidden gem here in this state. There are a lot of opportunities for somebody to come in with the right attitude, and we've seen if you get the right recruiters, you can recruit to this school. Guys like Sam Pittman out-recruited big-name schools and went into Florida and did it, went to other places around the country and out-recruited big-time schools for big-time athletes. David Lee was a great recruiter. David Lee, I remember instances like I'd be at a camp and somebody run a good 40 time. He'd tell a coach, I remember overhearing him say, hey, go over there and butter him up a little bit. David Lee spent the night at a recruit's house one time. They changed the rules. They basically hit a recruit out one time from another school so he would sign with Arkansas. There's actually a rule called the David Lee rule to prevent stuff like that happening. But David Lee spent the night at a recruit's house one time. Back in the day, hid recruits out. I mean, he gets it in recruiting. He's got that kind of same attitude. David Lee also, Arkansas couldn't get any recruits out of Warren. They couldn't get any recruits out of Warren until David Lee showed up and changed that whole thing. So that's another great recruiter that Arkansas has had. Justin Stepp is proven also big-time recruiter especially for such a young guy. But, he brings in wide receiver recruits, does a great job at doing that. Jeff Traylor's had tremendous success there too. Danny Nutt's a guy that was brought up the other day, I think, by DJ Williams when he was talking to Darren McFadden. DJ just makes you, Danny Nutt makes you feel like the most important guy in the room. It's a lot to be said for hiring great recruiters. You also, I think where Chad Morris got into a little bit of a mistake, made some mistakes is, he went very young on the offensive side and definitely focused on recruiting. Defensive side, just totally class. You have this young, exuberant offensive staff out there recruiting heavily. Defensive guys, for the most part, not recruiting at the same level as the offensive guys, just not overall, and especially Chavis. Chavis has done nothing in recruiting at Arkansas. A little. I don't mean to say absolutely nothing, but he has not done a good job as a recruiter. And his reputation kind of preceded him in that fact, that he was not a good recruiter. And sometimes coordinators just aren't. But at Arkansas, you need to be a good recruiter as a coordinator. How long are we going? 40 minutes. Let's see if we got anything too interesting here amongst the feedback here. Club dub, baby. Man, club dud. 0-5 carries a game will make you. Craddock and Chavis should switch position with each other for the next 2 games. Might be better. Ched Carpenter says he'll take the job. Yeah, hey, This is a great job. And people, like as Keith was saying, people seem to like have some kind of inferiority complex at Arkansas. This is a fantastic job. It really is. I mean, it's not that far to Dallas and East Texas. It's a little longer than you'd like. You'd like to have, I mean, there are things you run into sometimes with getting recruits on campus because, most of the targets live further away. But it's a great job. You're not that far from Texas. It's a better situation to me than a lot of other places. I mean, even though you don't have the backyard that some other places have. You just have to be very proactive. You have to be great evaluators. It's something that Houston was always, they had their misses like anybody, but they had some great evaluations. Timothy Whaley says Craddock and Chavis got to go after Mizzou. They are terrible. This staff is going to be pretty much dismantled, after the Missouri game. Dylan Head says not Dorial Green Beckham. No, they did not get Dorial Green Beckham from Missouri, but they did get Armon Watts. I don't know if Armon was offered by Missouri, but Brian Wallace was offered from the state of Missouri. There's been a couple of other recent examples. Well, that's just one guy out of a lot. We got a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and avoid the comments because it's a lot of talking back and forth, and I can't tell what questions are. So anyway, I want to tell everybody again, go to HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com, and sign up for our 60% off deal. What do you have to lose? It comes with a 7-day free trial. See what you've been missing. Again, if you like what we do on HawgSports Live, you like the walk and talk. I know that's been very popular. If you like what we do on Drive Time, on Out of Bounds, all of those other outlets, things that we do for free, then come see what we got behind the curtain. And the reason we do all of that stuff is to get our website out there. Yeah, we make a little bit of money doing the other stuff, but our main thing, by far and away, our full-time job is the website. So if you like what we do out there, support us on the website. Come check it out. Again, I want to play this one more time because this is an unsolicited response from somebody who was just like you. You didn't want to sign up. You didn't know if you wanted to do it, and he gave us a shot.
Jason, got a question or comment for Trey?
I will say, guys, if you subscribe at HawgSports, you won't have to go without information. I have since learned that for 2 days now. I went ahead and took advantage of Trey's deal, and I have been saturated with information and content, as well as an additional walk and talk after the conference today. So, I'm telling you, I've listened to Trey say it over and over again, and I'm like, man, I don't really have time to follow another website. I have found time to follow another website, and it has been it has quenched my Razorback thirst the last couple of days. But so Trey, I actually wanted to talk about your 2.0 board here.
So sign up for the annual subscription right now. Sign up for the monthly. There's a $1 off for your, or $1 for your first month if you want to sign up. Just try it for a month. $1 for your first month at HawgSports.com. Again, that's HawgSports.com. Part of the 24/7 Sports Network. There's no promo code, nothing. Just sign up. Just sign up, and you'll get the deal just like that. So nothing you have to worry about there. All right, everybody, plenty of ways to watch and listen. Facebook Live, always streaming live there. Be sure to throw us that thumbs up right now if you haven't done so already. Follow the page also. Share the content with somebody you think might like it. Also, going to upload to YouTube immediately after, as we always do. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, throw us a thumbs up there and hit the notifications bell. Share that video with somebody you think might like it. Share the video if you haven't done so already. Share it with somebody you think might like it. Also, there's plenty of ways to watch, plenty of ways to listen. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, just about anywhere you can think of to get your podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, throw us a 5-star review. Say something nice if you like the content. If you don't like what we're doing, then I don't want to make you do something you don't want to do. But if you like it, we'd appreciate those thumbs ups and those 5-star ratings. All right, everybody. I want to thank Keith Grayson. I want to thank Pete Roulier for joining us. I want to thank all of you guys for joining in. Sign up at HawgSports.com right now for 60% off. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.